Welcome back to another Ret Paladin video. Verabin here. Today we have a really exciting video. We're going to be going through some of the latest Datamined Paladin spells and talents for Retribution. I'm going to put a chapter at the end of the video if you just want to hear a summary. But for now, we're going to go through line by line and talk about some of these. Some of them are really, really interesting. And obviously, this is subject to change, but let's get right into it. All right, so the first one is Answered Prayer. When your health is brought below 40%, you instantly cast a free Word of Glory on yourself. Cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. So that actually seems really, really good. I think things being off the GCD are really, really powerful, and I think that when you talk about Rets being one of the highest death rates in specs, I think that this will help a lot with that. All right, the next one, Blade of Justice. Pierces enemies with a Blade of Light, dealing 181% blah, blah, blah. Physical damage. So what's interesting is, so it's physical damage, the one thing that you can see is different is that it has one charge, and it has a 12-second recharge, so that kind of implies that you'll be able to store up charges of this, or there may be other talents that might give you a charge and be able to use multiple Blades of Justice in a row, so that's actually pretty cool. All right, Blade of Vengeance. Blade of Justice also hits nearby enemies for some attack power, and it stuns demon and undead enemies for 5 seconds. So it does it looks like it does AoE, so that's actually really, really cool. I guess it depends on what the cooldown of that is and how we get these back and forth, but that's actually really nice. It's being able to stun demons and undead is kind of interesting for PvP. It introduces some possibilities, to improve our defenses against certain classes, as long as it works against demons and undead, like Death Knights or Demon Hunters or Warlocks who have these, either demon pets or demon forms and things like that. So that'll be pretty interesting. Blade of Wrath. Art of War resets the cooldown of Blade of Justice. I don't think this really changed. I think probably the only change was that it probably it gives you a charge of it now, so that's probably the difference. Blades of Light. Divine Storm Nails deals both physical and holy damage. So I don't understand what exactly this one means. It just says applies the aura. So I don't know if that means that it's doing double damage, or it's doing physical and holy damage, like maybe it's hitting twice, or it's doubling the damage. I don't really know. It's not really clear, but we'll have to figure that out. Blazing Blade. Crusader Strike generates 1 additional holy power. So that's really cool. That is going to definitely improve our holy power generation quite a bit. Blessed Champion. Crusader Strike hits an additional 2 targets. Now, I wonder if these are going to be maybe a choice node. They're only next to each other because this is in alphabetical order, but it is possible that there'll be a choice node, so you make a decision between having more single target damage or having more cleave damage. So that's a good, meaningful choice you get to make there. Blessed Hammer. So a Blessed Hammer every second for 5 seconds. It spirals downward, dealing damage, blah, blah, blah. Generates 1 holy power. I think you're going to see this in some of these, but it looks like a lot of this stuff is duplicated. I don't think they're actually getting 3 different Blessed Hammers. I think it's just duplicated. Boundless Judgment. Judgment hits an additional 2 targets. So that's replacing the current Boundless Judgment, which has some proc that's not very good. So that's actually really good. And then Commanding Judgment. Judgment hits 2 additional targets. Again, I think these are probably just duplicates. But that's actually really good. Again, another good, strong potential cleave opportunity for Ret. Crusader Strike deals 10% additional damage and heals you for 3% of your maximum health. So when you are at, let's say 300k health, 300,000 times 0.03, that's 9,000 healing. So not terrible. I mean, it's good to have just passive healing. So I think both in PvP and in PvE, it'll give you a good reason to press this button, and it'll give you just some kind of passive healing. And then this is Crusader's Reprieve is also repeated again, and it says it reduces the cooldown of Judgment and Crusader Strike. So I'm not sure which of these is true. Maybe it's a choice node, or maybe it's just they just haven't put a new name in. Crusading Strikes. Crusader Strike replaces your auto attacks, and instead of granting holy power, you now generate some amount of holy power every 10 seconds. So I don't really understand what this means. This is going to be a very different playstyle potentially. So it sounds like you're just going to have passive holy power generation, and you'll also have holy power generation through Blade of Justice / Blade of Wrath, so you're still getting Judgment as well, but any of the other ways that you have it. So this is kind of interesting. I feel like this could be a choice node between maybe Crusader Strike generates 2 additional holy power or 1 additional holy power, and then, or it just gives you this passive. I don't really understand what it means by replacing your auto attacks. I don't know if that means that the cooldown is equivalent to the speed on your weapon or something like that, and you can just keep hitting it over and over. I don't really understand why you would want to replace your auto attacks, because that means things like Blade of Wrath aren't necessarily going to be possible. Like you wouldn't want to take Art of War because that's your auto attack. I don't know if this would cannibalize that or not. It's possible this would take the place of it, right? So it replaces your auto attack, so maybe you could still get Blade of Wrath procs, but I'm not really sure. So Divine Storm, your auto attacks have a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice. I don't understand this one. I think it's just a tooltip error. I think this is just Art of War. I don't know why it says Divine Storm. Expurgation, your Blade of Justice causes the target to burn for 60% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. It also stuns demon and undead targets. So that's actually really cool. And up above, we saw Blade of Justice talked about stunning, and I don't know if that means that you probably have to take Expurgation for it to actually do that. So that's actually really good. Again, you'll be able to stun those Warlock pets and stuff like that. And I think that'll be really good. 5 seconds is a long time. So when a Warlock pops that Demonic Tyrant, or even potentially if a Demon Hunter goes into Metamorphosis, they do turn into a demon. So I don't know if it actually would stun a player or not. We'll just have to see. Hammer and Anvil. While Divine Seed is active, you radiate 2,000 holy enemy damaging. I think there's some punctuation missing in this one. So you radiate 2,000 holy damage, damaging all nearby enemies for 2,000 every 2,000 seconds. I think what it means is 2,000 milliseconds, so every 2 seconds. This seems really silly unless the duration of Divine Seed is going to increase a lot. This just feels like a wasted talent. I don't understand that one. Healing Burst. Divine Storm heals you for some % of your maximum health. So again, some more passive healing. This is a callback to back in, I don't know if in TBC it healed, but in Wrath it definitely healed. Divine Storm healed for some amount of the damage done. So that's actually pretty cool. So hopefully between Crusader Strike healing and between Divine Storm healing, it'll give you a reason to press Divine Storm, but also you'll be able to get a lot of passive healing. It should help with survivability. High Lord's Judgment. Judgment and Hammer of Wrath deal 15% increased damage. Cool, cool, cool. High Lord's Judgment, another one. Judgment also deals physical damage. So now also deals physical damage. So this is a weird one, guys. I don't know what this means. Also deals physical damage makes me think that it's going to deal double damage. But I don't know. That doesn't seem right because Judgment already hits really, really hard. So we'll have to see what that really means. And yet another High Lord's Judgment. Maybe these are ranks, or maybe they just haven't put in the tooltips for these yet, or the names. Judgment causes targets to take increased damage from your next 2 holy power abilities. So that's sort of like the upgraded Judgment debuff. I forget which rank it is, rank 4, rank 3 of Judgment. So that's actually pretty cool. It's cool that it's next 2 holy power abilities, so that'll give us more consistent damage. Holy Crusader, Blade of Justice now deals both physical and holy damage. Again, pretty cool. Holy Prism. Now this is classified as Ret, and I'm sort of surprised to see this here, although this is also Paladin spells, so some of this could be, it could just be, it doesn't necessarily mean that Ret's getting Holy Prism, because it's just changing the some wording on there. So I wouldn't assume that we're going to get that one. That seems like a holy spell. And they also talked about button bloat, not increasing button bloat, so I can't see them giving us another button like that. Improved Blade of Justice. Blade of Justice now has 2 charges. Lovely. Inquisitor's Ire. Every 3 seconds, gain 5% increased damage on your next Divine Storm, stacking up to 10 times. That is really, really cool. So it's just going to give you, again, another reason to hit Divine Storm. It'll give you a little bit more burst AoE damage or cleave on those fights or in PvP, so that's pretty cool. Judgment of Justice. We love to see this. Judgment also slows enemies by 30%, so a little bit of a snare, a little bit of a passive snare. So that is really good. I'm assuming that we're still going to have Hand of Hindrance. We'll have to see, but obviously that's good to see that we'll have a little bit more mobility there. Kind of negative mobility, but you know what I mean. Jurisdiction, guys, this is a big one here. So I got to imagine that Jurisdiction is like a bottom of the tree, like a capstone talent. Templar's Verdict and Blade of Justice deal 10% increased damage. The range of Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, and Hammer of Justice is increased to 25 yards. That is insane. What's interesting about this is we saw another data mine where it looked like they were going to increase the range of Final Verdict from 10 yards to 20 yards. So I don't know how this interacts with this. I have a feeling that this Jurisdiction is a PvP talent. It's not clear to me. It's not clear to me which one of these are like talents or abilities or passives or things that are baseline stats or anything like that. These are just spell strings and stuff that they found. So I have a feeling this replaces the PvP talent, and if it does, it's going to be really, really good for Ret in PvP. Light Celerity. Flash of Lights casts instantly. Its healing is increased by 50%, but it now has a 6-second cooldown. So I don't know how I feel about this. I think that we'll have to do some math and kind of see how that jives. But again, we don't know what talents are going to continue to exist in from the current tree. So it's possible these are just new talents, and some of them will replace existing talents, so we may not have the talents we currently have. Light Celerity, again, reduces the cooldown of Blade of Justice by 4 seconds, which is insane because it already has 2 charges, and it already does not have a very long cooldown. It's only like 12 seconds or something, so that's pretty good. Light Strength, Crusader Strike and Templar's Verdict, critical strike chance increased by 5%, critical strike damage increased by 10%, extremely good there. It's going to be a good scaling talent for us for the critical strike damage. That's going to scale with attack power and stuff as we get stronger. Light Forge Blessing, Divine Storm, deals 10% increased damage and heals you and up to 0 nearby allies for 5% of maximum health. Again, some really good passive healing there. I really, really like this talent. Again, I think this one mirrors the how Divine Storm used to be, so I think that's really cool. I think having that passive kind of healing is going to be really good for Ret, especially in PvP. Mark with a Silver Hand, Strength and Stamina increased by 10%. 10% stamina is pretty huge. It'll give you a lot of extra health, so I really like that. Martial Training, physical damage dealt increased by 20%. As we saw above, we saw some things where we were switching it from being holy damage to physical damage and things like that, so we'll have to see how this plays out. I'm sure there will be like a physical damage build, and maybe that build will be better if you're playing in PvP, like if you're playing into casters, because they tend to have less armor, which means your physical damage would do more damage. So I think that that's a possibility. I think we'll just have to see how the tree is laid out. Overwhelming Justice is just says multi-hit proc for Divine Toll, so I don't know what exactly that means, but hopefully it means that we'll have like a Ringing Clarity kind of thing like we had in Shadowlands. Again, another Overwhelming Justice reduces the cooldown of Judgment by some seconds. Again, we saw that above, so it's probably just duplicated. Penitence increases the damage of your periodic effects by 15%. So this is an interesting one because there are a few periodic effects that we're adding in from Blade of Justice, Burning, from Expurgation, and from Wake of Ashes. When we get to that, Wake of Ashes is going to add in additional burning. So I think that's interesting. I don't know if it counts for Consecration, because Consecration is sort of periodic effects, I guess. So that could be pretty good. We'll have to see. Physical Judgment Test, reduce the cooldown of Judgment by 2 seconds. There's a lot of this. I think it's just duplicated. Crusader Strike and Blade of Justice deal 20% increased critical damage, and your auto attack critical strike chance is increased by 10%. This doesn't seem all that good, but again, if there's a physical damage build in there, that might be a good one. Punishment, I really like this one. Successfully interrupting an enemy with Rebuke casts Templar's Verdict. I'm sad that they misspelled Templar's Verdict, but it is what it is. So there's a really good benefit there, especially if you are stacking all these Templar's Verdict damage buffs, and I have a feeling we're going to, then this is going to be really, really strong in PvP. In PvE, less so. Maybe in Mythic Plus, you're going to be doing interrupts and stuff, so it's definitely going to be good there. But in raids, it's usually not as much of interrupting, so not that great there, but it will be definitely really strong in PvP. And this one makes me wonder if this will be a PvP talent, so I'm not really sure on that, so we'll have to see. This is Reckoning. I don't think anything changed here. We can look at the new tooltip, but I think it's the same. I think it's the same PvP talent. And actually, I see some of these talents. It does say if it's a PvP talent or not. So maybe none of these are PvP talents. There was one that we looked at that I thought maybe was going to be a PvP talent, but like Jurisdiction. So maybe they're moving that from a PvP talent to a regular talent. That would be really, really good because there's a lot of good PvP talents for Ret. So we'll have to see on that. Righteous Verdict. Your holy power spending abilities increase the damage of your next Divine Hammer or Blade of Justice by 8%. So I'm not sure if this means that Divine Hammer takes the place of Blade of Justice. I didn't catch that in the Blade of Justice tooltip earlier, but that's kind of what it looks like, maybe. So this isn't all that great, but I wish this stacked multiple times or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. Seal of Protection, this is a really good one too for survivability. Divine Protection reduces damage you take by an additional 10%, and Shield of Vengeance protects you from 30% more damage. Really, really strong here, guys. I think that's gonna and it looks like to me this probably means we'll be able to get Divine Protection. We saw in the short, I'll put a link to it here, but there was another Datamined that was looking at the Divine Protection going baseline, 1 minute cooldown baseline, 20% damage reduction. So getting another 10% on that is going to be really strong. And then Shield of Vengeance will be 30% more damage. Again, really, really good. Sealed Verdict, I think we already have this one, so they didn't really change this one. It looks like they're just changing the tooltip. Maybe all Paladins will be able to get it. I don't know. They removed it where it says red, so that's weird. Searing Light increases physical damage dealt. Stay of Execution. Execution sentence lasts 6 seconds longer. I think that's already a talent. Maybe they just changed the name of it. Templar's Verdict. This is weird. Again, I think this is just a repeat of Art of War. So this is an interesting one here. So Templar's Verdict deals 10% increased damage, heals you for 100% of the damage it deals. Templar's Verdict deals an increased 50% damage when used against a stun target. So this is Justicar's Vengeance, and based on the tooltip and stuff, it kind of looks like that hopefully that Justicar's Vengeance is going to modify Templar's Verdict rather than it being a new button that replaces it. It's just going to add on to it, which is really good because it means it's going to benefit from all of those other modifiers that benefit from Templar's Verdict. And hopefully this is one of those things where they were talking about combining, button bloat and stuff like that, because you keep in mind you'll be able to get this Templar's Verdict, which is aka Justicar's Vengeance, and Final Verdict. Hopefully it won't be a choice node, and then you're gonna have, there's all those other talents that are increase the range of it and stuff. So we're gonna be able to do a ton more damage. We're gonna be a lot of passive healing, so that's really, really strong if that is true. Truce Wake causes your target to burn for an additional 200% of attack power over 10 seconds. So we talked a little bit about that up before. We're going to have some bonuses to our burning damage, which is really, really cool. It's one of those things that I've been interested in, the burning aspect of Ret. I feel like that's something that kind of goes with the class fantasy, so I'm really glad to see that. Vanguard's Momentum. Holy Wrath, Hammer of Wrath has 1 extra charge and a 10% increased critical strike chance, and on enemies below 20% health, it generates 1 additional holy power. So that is really, really strong. Generating more holy power is going to be really, really good for us. Wake of Ashes looks like the duration is increasing a little bit, and then it looks like this is Wake of Ashes, but I think this is Truth's Wake, and it probably means that Wake of Ashes is not going to slow them or burn them without that talent. Zealot's Fervor, auto attack speed increased by 20%, and auto attacks heal you for 1% of your maximum health. So those are all of the changes. So if I had to summarize what I'm seeing here, I think that they're definitely hitting on a lot of what they promised to hit on, and as far as improving mobility. We saw that we get a slow on judgment, which is sort of like Long Arm of the Law, but in reverse, because we're going to slow the person down instead of speeding us up. So that's kind of cool. Glad to see that. I'm glad to see additional stuns that are going to happen from Blade of Justice, especially on those demon and undead targets. So that's going to be good in sort of certain situations. I like to see more burning damage. That'll kind of increase some of our passive damage. I like to see that we are going to be increasing our range, and those kind of things obviously help with our maneuverability or mobility, right? So having a longer range and being sort of a medium range damage dealer, and I feel like this is going to go a long way to doing that. You still need to be pretty close range to do Wake of Ashes, and I'm sure some other abilities as well, but I like to see, as far as survivability goes, I think that there's a lot of really positive changes here when we see hopefully Divine Protections going baseline, and a lot of kind of auto attack healing. We saw that with Zealot's Fervor, and then we saw some healing being tied to Crusader Strike, being tied to Divine Storm. So a lot of really, really positive changes there. And then it kind of looks like they're kind of putting the spec in a situation where you're going to be able to choose between physical damage and holy damage, holy / radiant / whatever non-physical damage. And I think that's going to be an interesting choice, at least in PvP, where you're facing casters. You might want to do more physical damage versus magic damage. So that's going to be an interesting choice to make there as well. So obviously this is the first pass that we're seeing. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll continue to watch these changes unfold. See you guys in the next video. Peace.